Hi, I'm Carla D. Tillery, and welcome to the Chair Chronicles. I'm your life coach and your favorite auntie. You know, that aunt that is so not afraid to tell you the truth and help you see things just a little clearer, and you love her advice. Well, as a certified life coach with over 2 decades of experience, I'm very passionate about helping you find your happiness. So pull up a chair and let's have a talk. LA.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Very good, very good.
We had such a great conversation about conflict in the workplace.
That was a good one. Yes.
But now let's talk about how we deal with it in our personal life, with our family and friends.
Yes.
With our, our spouses.
Okay. You guys have time? Yeah, this is true. This is different.
How do you handle conflict when it comes to people that you really have that are in your close circle?
Okay.
Like I said, like your partner, like your close friends, or even your family.
Yeah.
It could be with your parents. It could be with your siblings.
Right.
We talked a lot about in the workplace, like going directly to the person, trying to address it. We talked about clarification versus confrontation.
Right.
And I absolutely believe those principles are the same.
Right. Right.
But what are some experiences you have, and do you handle it differently? Because when you're in the workplace, it's that professional,
yes.
It's that professional garment we wear.
Using our words
I'm
correctly.
at work.
Yes.
I'm at work now, so I can't do what I
Right.
would do if this was, in the street.
Right, exactly. Well, I do believe that we do handle it a little different. I believe that some of the principles are still there, but we just handle it different because these are people that are close to us.
Yes.
People that we are supposed to love, So I think it just depends. It depends upon who it is. Now, I have had some situations where I've had to talk to a sibling or two.
Okay.
Again, because I'm one of those people that I'm not going to tell everyone but the person that I'm having an issue with.
Okay.
So
that's good. So you're not like the talker, like so-and-so did this to me, blah, blah, blah.
No,
that's good.
I have to go directly to you.
Right. And we should.
Yeah.
I believe we should.
Yeah.
So.
And one of the things that it's funny because you end up picking up these kind of mantras or these sayings. And again, like I said, with the one for professional, I said, let's go and grab a cup of coffee. I always preface when we're getting ready to have that talk with, listen, this does not mean I don't love you.
That's now I know so. You about to comfort me. You about to comfort me.
It takes the sting out of it. And then, I'm animated. I will say that. But depending upon what it is, I state how I feel about the situation and what has happened. And then I have learned, because I am a talker, but I've learned the power of silence to really sit and listen to the other person. Some things we have resolved, some things you don't. But I definitely believe in talking to that person. And again, that's with siblings, that's with friends, great friends. With our parents, it's a little different. It's a little different. It's a little different.
Right.
Let's just be clear. Sometimes parents think that their way is right way, and that's it.
Parents are always right.
Yeah, they're always right. Yeah, so that has to be approached in a different way. And again, it depends upon your relationship that you have with your parents. But that's me.
I think the approach personally is in many cases is customized based on that individual, because usually if it is someone in that close circle, you kind of know what moves them and what shakes them up.
Right.
And so trying to navigate that to not get to a point where they're not receptive.
Right.
Usually, I think if you approach it based on who they are, their personality, understanding what makes them tick, when you make those adjustments, then you'll get a better result.
Right. Right.
And like you said, parents may be different from your spouse versus your siblings versus your girlfriends or your guy friends and how you handle it.
Right. And you're going to be passionate. Let's just be clear. These are people that are close to you. These are people that you care about, that you want in your life. So you're going to be passionate. So there have been those conversations that have, kind of reached a crescendo. But I've also learned too that after we've talked about it, and even if there isn't a resolve or we've stated how we both felt wronged or felt, and then then you go your separate ways and you let that person marinate. We have to also understand we have to give them an opportunity sometimes people don't want to talk to you. They're like, I'm mad. I'm just going to be mad. And I've always said, I'm going to let you sit in that. I'm okay. I've said what I needed to say, and I'm ready to move on. I know that everyone doesn't react that way.
Does not react
but
that
you
way.
also, the person that is not that person that wants to just move on and do, you got to give people their space.
You have, yes. I do believe in giving people space. Yeah. And I will also say that, when we have to be careful during the exchange, because you said the power of silence, and I believe that is true. And in that moment of silence, you should be really listening.
That's right.
Because oftentimes we're preparing our language already. We already got that comeback. We ready for the comeback.
Yep. Yes.
And so we're not even hearing exactly, a person can get started, make one sentence, and we're formulating our response, and they're still talking.
We're like,
and we don't even hear. It's like double dutch. We're waiting for our turn to get in there.
Right.
And so oftentimes I think during the power of silence, we need to exercise the listening and really have the opportunity to hear what the other person is saying.
Right.
And wait till they finish. And I have to constantly push myself, sit on my hands, put my hand over my mouth, because I am one of those who's ready to kind of like jump in after the first sentence. And so trying to slow down.
Right.
And let that person finish.
Yeah.
That's that. It's hard. It's hard
because, like you said, sometimes we want to argue our position. And we, I need you to hear what I'm saying. But like you said, if we want the other person to hear us, we have to be willing to hear them.
Right.
Even if we don't agree.
And sometimes there's more power in disagreeing just as much as there is power in agreeing. And what I mean by that, you have to agree to disagree. That's the common expression. Let's just agree to disagree.
Right.
We just have two different approaches, two different experiences.
Right.
And both experiences can be absolutely real.
Right.
But it just it kind of is a conflicting, experience to the other person. And sometimes we don't want to understand. Right. Because it's like, well, how did you take it that way? That didn't make any sense. And, that's not what I said. Right. And so we do a lot of, that's not what I said. I said this. And we're doing all of that going back and forth without really trying to understand what really was the message.
Right. Right.
We take things so word from word, and then every time, so I have learned that there are certain words I cannot use because they don't match up with how I'm really trying to express myself. Right. Because oftentimes I'm one of those who will use the words always and never. You always, or I never did this. Yeah. And that's not what I mean, but that is what is heard. Right. And so now I'm forced to now find the right appropriate word that really expresses what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And a lot of times that can very well be a part of the conflict. Right. And the word choice.
Yeah, it truly is, because words can inflame. It can set the other person off, and it can also set you off. It can also have you in a place where it's like, okay, now we're totally off what we were talking about, what we were trying to resolve. And in those situations where I've seen, friendships kind of fall apart because they've decided just not to, I think I'm right, and I think I'm right, and I'm going to talk to everybody else, but those two individuals. So what happens is they just kind of fade out, and those situations happen. Right, they do happen. But what it does is all of those who are part of that circle then feel a little divided. They don't know where, because they don't know what happened, or they're hearing
different things. Yeah,
different versions of it. So we also have to be mindful that we don't pull other people into conflict based upon our view of it.
Because in family circles, and close friend circles, what we often don't realize, and even what you just said, is that it impacts the other people that are around you. Right. So even as an example, if there's conflict between a mom and a dad in a home, and whether they live together or not, you still sometimes can tell when someone is upset and bothered by something.
Right. Right.
It flows into the atmosphere, flows into how you're doing things, flows into your communication with other people.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what is going on?
Right.
Why don't you talk to them and figure it out?
Right.
Like, what's going on?
And I believe subconsciously, children as well as friends of that couple, they start to pick sides. And it might not be that they are trying to pick sides.
Right.
It's that they're getting all of this information, and one might sound more, just sounds horrible coming from that person. So it's like, they did what to you? Or they said what to you?
And they're only getting one side of the story.
Right.
One side of the story. And that other expression that people say, there's three sides to every story. Your side is, and then the truth
is in the middle. Right.
Well, I get what that expression means, but I think there's truth actually from both perspectives, because it's their experience. And what we have to do is begin to try to understand that individuals' experience is their reality.
Right.
And if that is your reality, then how do you communicate that in a way where people will see it? Because most of the time in a conflict, people just want to be seen from their perspective, what they're dealing with, and how they interpreted the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we also have to realize that some situations there's a resolve, but there might not be an ending to whatever the conflict is. It just may mean that you go your way, I go my way. We can be respectful, especially if you're in close proximity to the person where you will have to deal with them or have to see them. That, like you said, you can respectfully agree to disagree, and it may be that your dealings with that person has now changed, but it doesn't mean that those that are around you have to change because of it. You let it be your conflict, and your resolve to say, listen, it's the way you feel about it. I don't like it. I choose not to be around you, or I choose not to deal with you anymore. And it's okay. Some people feel like, we have to just get over it and move on. Sometimes moving on means that you...
that there is a parting. Particularly if it has to do with philosophical things or value systems that really conflict, and you don't see a future because you're in such disalignment. Certainly that can require some separation. And I think in other times, we have to recognize that there are people in our life that will be there for a season. And that there's some that are connected to your purpose forever. And then there are others that will come in and they will come out. And I think we oftentimes grieve, when people leave us without understanding that it absolutely could be a part of your purpose and destiny.
And I think that's another one of those growth situations where you start to understand that, we get those little mantras, somebody's in your life for a season, a reason, but it's really true. And what we do is we grab them by the ankles and we try to hold on, and we're thinking that there's a conflict, there's something that I did wrong to make you go away. But like you said, sometimes we have to take that step back and say, you know what? They were there to fulfill a purpose, and now they have to move on. It doesn't mean that you're upset with one another, you're not mad. It's just that they flow. They flow out. And it's okay.
And then others are like a boomerang.
Right?
It's like you're separated for a little while, but then they can come back into your life at another point. And it can be all well and all good. And so when you're handling with people, of course, it's very sensitive. It's touchy. Because we're talking about that human connection. And I strongly believe that we are not meant to do life alone.
No.
We are meant to do life with others.
Yes.
And I think just learning that and treating that with care. And love. And treating people like we want to be treated. I think if you like to treat people good, Let me bring some clarification to that,
please.
Because sometimes, you
Some
treat people
just...
like you've been treated because you've been treated badly, so you feel like that's the norm.
That's the norm. Right.
But for those who really do try to treat people well.
Exactly.
And with respect.
That's it.
And with honor. And with truth and transparency.
That's right.
Then hopefully that will come back to you. When you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think it's some very similar principles in terms of trying to get clarification versus confronting someone. I think, as you said, like the power of silence and the power of listening, I think is so important that we hear the other person, that we calm ourselves down, that we sit in a space. I'm talking to myself. You sit in a space where you hear and you really absorb without trying to immediately have your comeback ready.
Yeah, exactly.
And just have a conversation. We've lost the ability to have a conversation about different perspectives.
Yes.
You see it all over. You see it nationally. You see it in the world. You see it in politics. You see it in so many other areas. Is that if we don't agree, then we can't get along. And that should not be the case.
And it's not true. It's not true. It's okay that you have a perspective and I have a perspective. And it does not mean that we have to be in conflict.
Right.
It just means what you think is what you think. What I think is what I think. And we can be respectful about that.
Right.
You know?
Because your childhood experience could cause you to react differently to something I said because I'm not even aware of the details or the impact to you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And to somebody else, it might go over very well and not, that person won't even flinch a bit.
Right.
But for you, I'm just using you as an example, but because of your childhood, how you grew up or what you were taught or what you absorbed, you could respond to the very same thing very differently.
And it's so funny that you say that because you know what? In the moment, we don't even stop to think that person's experience is not like mine. Because I'm sometimes I'm accusing my own self of doing this where I say, oh, they need to have a thicker skin. I mean, come on. Like that doesn't bother me. But who am I to say?
Right.
Because I don't know what their experience is.
You don't know what their experience
I don't know what their triggers are.
Right.
So in our moment and in our own kind of puff up myself, we stop to forget that person has a story that we have no clue about.
And just because you have thicker skin does not mean that there's less value in the person who may have more of the impact by that. You take away the value of who they are when you expect every reaction to be like your reaction. And usually that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
This is how I would react. Right. So why are you not reacting the same? Why is this such a big deal?
That's heavy when you think about it because we don't take the time when we're in the moment to really think about. But that's why that power of a second.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm telling you.
It will save us from a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. Just sometimes just to sit in that second and just not say anything. Just try to reassess. Try to bring context to what's happening and an understanding to yourself before you respond.
Right.
Make sure we need to check to make sure we're responding the right way.
That's right.
And sometimes the power of a second will give you that moment to breathe, to pause, to reflect before you respond.
Right. And it doesn't mean your feelings aren't valid. We don't want you to feel like, oh, okay, well, that means that, everybody can pick on me, everybody can beat up on me, and it's okay. Nope. That's not what we're saying.
Not at all. Not at all.
We're just saying, how can you diffuse situations that could be blown out of proportion and you lose valuable relationships and even lose a part of yourself by being angry if you just take a moment and understand that sometimes that person that you're dealing with has a life and they have a story.
They have a story. Everybody has a story. Everybody has their story. Yeah. And sometimes people are afraid to share the chapters of their life because we don't know how people will interpret that and see them differently if they know the details of their life.
Wow.
Listen, we can keep going on
we
and
unpacked.
on and on.
Yes, this was good.
Yeah, because family secrets
can
break up families, create conflict.
Yeah. And generations.
In generations.
Yeah.
Divide sides. Dividing sides.
We don't want that.
Yeah, we don't want that. And in marriages, the same way.
Yes.
Strong friendships that you thought were built on some sturdy foundation can be split up just like that.
Yeah.
Because of miscommunication, because of not understanding the stories
not
of
listening,
each other.
Not listening.
Not getting clarification, but just confronting someone.
Confronting. Yeah. And at the end of the day, when all of that, the dust
was
settled,
it worth it?
Was it worth it? Was it worth it?
Was it worth it? Was it worth the divide?
Yeah.
Was it worth the loss?
Yeah. When we know better, we have to do better. We have to do
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
We do, and we will do better.
We will do better.
We're
Yes.
going to get better. Listen, we're going to keep growing
Yes.
stronger and stronger and healthier,
Yes.
living better lives, having better relationships, reducing conflict, because we're here to hear each other, see each other, and respect each other. Listen, if you have a story to share with us, please do. As always, we want you to like this episode. We want you to share it with others. Maybe this can help someone else understand how to handle conflict with someone that they care about. Because at the end of the day, we can't keep saying, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. Because honestly, if you really think about it, you wouldn't be so upset
If you didn't care.
if you didn't care.
Yes.
So listen, we so glad you decided to tune into this episode. As always, stay tuned and stay connected with us on The Chair Chronicles.